The first time I walk back into my grandmother's house after she's gone, the air still smells faintly of cinnamon and old wood polish. It's been 9 months since the funeral, but the scent is so specific, so hers. It hits me like a memory I wasn't ready to relive. Sunlight filters through the lace curtains, dust motes swirling in the air like quiet ghosts. I pause in the doorway, keys dangling from my fingers. The floor creaks under my boots. Same sound it made when I was 8, sneaking downstairs for cookies she pretended not to notice. This house isn't just real estate to me. It's where I learned to read, where my mom braided my hair for first grade, where my dad yelled about bills, and where Grandma always found a way to soften it with pie. Now it's mine, or at least it's supposed to be. I run my hand along the banister, the varnish smooth but worn. My renovation plans sit in the folder tucked under my arm. New wiring, refinished floors, maybe even turn Grandma's old sewing room into a small home office. I've saved for this, worked the kind of hours that make your eyes ache from spreadsheets and interest tables. Being a mortgage analyst doesn't make you rich, but it teaches you one thing: how to make a house work for you. I unlock the kitchen window, push it open, and breathe in the cold Raleigh air. A robin darts across the yard. The garden's overgrown now, wild violets pushing through cracked paving stones. I imagine what Grandma would say if she saw it. Probably something like, "Haley, life grows where it's meant to. You just have to clear the weeds." A sound behind me startles me. "Looks like you've got your work cut out for you." Dad's voice. He stands in the kitchen doorway, hands shoved in the pockets of his windbreaker, expressions somewhere between pride and impatience. Mom appears a moment later, smiling the kind of smile that means, be polite. "Hey," I say, setting down the folder. "You didn't tell me you were stopping by." "We were in the neighborhood," Mom says lightly. "Wanted to see how you're settling in." I gesture around the half-empty kitchen. Settling in might be generous. It's mostly boxes and dust right now. Dad chuckles. "You always did like a project. Just don't go spending your savings on unnecessary upgrades, okay? The place has good bones. Keep it simple." That's his way of saying, don't make it too nice. "I know what I'm doing," I reply, keeping my voice neutral. He glances at the envelope of renovation quotes sitting on the counter. "So you're still with that bank, that mortgage place?" "Yeah, try Capital." He nods, as if that somehow justifies him being here. Mom opens a cupboard, sighs softly. "Still can't believe she's gone. Your grandmother loved this house." "I know. She always said it would stay in the family, for your brother's kids someday." The words hit my chest before I can process them. I blink. "What?" He waves it off casually. "Just saying, it's a family home, that's all. I know you're fixing it up, but remember, it's part of all of us." I nod slowly, not trusting myself to speak. When they finally leave, I sit on the old dining bench, staring at the folder of renovation estimates. Something about Dad's tone lingers. The way he said it wasn't about my future, but my brother's. For a moment, I try to shake it off. He's probably just talking sentiment, family nostalgia. He doesn't understand how deeds or ownership work. That's my world, not his. But later that night, as I upload the renovation documents to my digital mortgage folder, a small voice in my head won't quiet down. "For your brother's kids someday." Why would he say that if the house is legally mine? I open the county property records. A habit from work. I do it automatically, without thinking. I type the address. 142 Brookside Lane. The document loads, slow, like it's reluctant to tell me what I'm about to see. Owner, Timothy Walker. My brother. For a moment, I just stare, blink, refresh the page. Same result. The listed date of transfer, June 18th, 2015. The field labeled deed type reads, "Beneficiary transfer for tax reassignment." My mind races. That's impossible. Grandma was alive 5 years ago. She would have told me. She showed me the papers, the ones that still had her name and mine. So how could this have happened? I scroll down further. There's a signature on the transfer record. Eleanor Walker. Grandma's. Except it's not. The W in Walker curls wrong. The signature is off, a forgery, subtle but clear to anyone who spent a decade reviewing mortgage documents. My pulse starts pounding in my ears. I close my laptop and stare into the dim kitchen, heart hammering. My father's voice echoes in my memory. Just don't go spending your savings on unnecessary upgrades. And beneath that another, it's for your brother's kids someday. I understand now. They think I'll never notice, that I'll keep playing the quiet daughter, fixing up a house that isn't even mine. I rest my hands flat against the cool table, steadying myself. They forgot who I am. I'm not just the daughter, I'm the mortgage analyst. And tomorrow morning, I'm pulling every record, every clause, every file with this address on it. Whatever they buried in paperwork, I'm about to dig it up. The next morning, my alarm goes off before sunrise. I don't hit snooze. I don't even need coffee. My mind's already racing with names, numbers, and dates. By 6, I'm already at the kitchen table, laptop open, fingers moving through a system I've used 1,000 times for work, but never like this. County Recorder's Office. Deed Archive. Power of Attorney Index. Every database that's ever crossed my screen now feels personal. There it is again. Transfer of ownership. June 18th, 2020. Filed by Robert Walker, my father. Attached document. Transfer executed with consent of current owner, Eleanor Walker. Except Grandma didn't sign that consent. I'd stake my career on it. I zoom in on the scanned signature. The E wavers in the way hers never did. Too smooth, too steady for a woman whose hand shook when she tried to write grocery lists after her wrist surgery. It's not hers. My father's name appears again, this time as witness. A hollow feeling opens in my chest. He did this, or had someone do it for him. I click download, watching the file appear on my desktop like an unwanted truth. At the bottom of the page, a familiar name catches my eye. Timothy Crane, ESQ. My father's golf buddy, the one who always bragged about finding creative solutions for clients. Of course. I close my eyes and take a slow breath. I've seen this before, not in my own life, but consideration loophole. A quiet way of shifting value without calling it what it is. Theft. By the time the sun rises high enough to warm the window glass, I'm already at the county records office. The woman behind the plexiglass gives me a polite, practiced smile. Can I help you? I need access to the original deed for 142 Brookside Lane. She types something, frowning at her screen. You're Haley Walker, right? I'm sorry, but it says here the property isn't in your name. I know. My voice sounds even. That's why I'm here. She hesitates, then lowers her voice. You can request a scan through our public archive system? Thank you, I say, signing the form with a steady hand I don't quite feel. Hours later, the email comes through. The document loads slowly. A scan of the physical file, edges dark with shadow. I study it like evidence in a case I didn't know I was part of. Halfway down, I spot something buried in fine print. This transfer is valid contingent upon the trustee maintaining the subject property for residential use. I read the line twice before the meaning sinks in. Residential use, not occupancy. If my brother moves out, even temporarily, the transfer voids. The property reverts to its prior ownership. A loophole. Small, but real. I print 3 copies and slip them into separate folders. One labeled work, one personal, and one I label without thinking, leverage. When I look up, the kitchen light has shifted. The air feels different, thicker somehow. The refrigerator hums quietly in the corner, the only sound besides the faint ticking of the old wall clock. It's strange how a house can feel familiar and foreign at the same time. I call my mother. The phone rings twice before she answers, her voice careful, too bright. "Haley, sweetie, everything okay?" "I found the deed," I say. My voice is calm, even. "The one transferring the house to Tim." Silence. Then a small laugh. "Oh, that. Your father said it was for tax purposes, honey. You know how complicated these things can get." "Without Grandma's knowledge? Without mine?" Another pause. Then I hear a chair scrape, Dad's voice low and clipped in the background. "Put it on speaker." He doesn't wait for her. "Haley, don't start this again." "Start what? Asking why the house I was promised is in Tim's name? You live there rent-free. You should be grateful." I close my eyes. Grateful? I repeat quietly. For what exactly? Being lied to? Watching you forge Grandma's signature? Mom's voice hardens. "You always overreact. This isn't some conspiracy. It's just family planning. You and your brother both benefit in the end." A laugh escapes me, low and disbelieving. "That's not how ownership works, and you know it. You think everything's a transaction. You can't treat family like a client, Haley. It's unbecoming." I almost tell him that family shouldn't treat you like an asset either, but I don't. I hang up instead. For a long time, I just sit there, staring at the grain of the wooden cable beneath my palms. When I finally open my laptop again, it's not out of panic, it's precision. I access the National Property Index, a tool I use daily for clients. It lists every recorded valuation, every assessed update. 5 years ago, the house was valued at $146,000. Today, comparable listings sell for over $420,000. Almost triple. The numbers don't lie. They never do. But people do. I sit back, breathing evenly, the glow of the screen lighting the quiet kitchen. The house creaks faintly, a floorboard settling above me, an old, familiar sound that used to mean comfort. Now it sounds like warning. I start a new folder on my desktop and name it Brookside. Inside it, I drag the deed scans, the signature analysis, the appraisals. It's not a plan yet, just evidence, a map of what they've done. Outside, the porch light flickers once, twice, before going dark. I close my laptop gently. Tomorrow, I'll start connecting the dots. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of someone knocking. Not polite, hesitant knocking, but sharp, impatient. When I open the door, my brother's standing there. Tim. He's wearing his usual work polo and that same easy grin he uses when he's about to say something unpleasant but wants to look like the good guy while doing it. "Hey, sis." He glances past me into the house. "Wow, you've been busy. Smells like dust and old memories." "Morning," I reply flatly. He shifts, holding a takeaway coffee like a peace offering. "Brought you this. Mom said you've been stressed lately." "Stressed," I repeat. "Is that what she called it?" He sighs. "Look, Dad told me about the whole deed thing. You're blowing it way out of proportion." I stare at him. "You knew?" "I mean, yeah. They told me years ago. It's not a big deal, Haley. It's just paperwork. You still get to live here. The words sink in like slow poison. You still get to live here. It's the same tone you use when you tell someone they can borrow something that's already theirs. I helped Grandma refinance this house. I sat next to her while she signed the renewal forms. I know what was on them. You don't just transfer ownership without her consent. He shrugs. Dad said it was all legal. And hey, if you ever need to move, I'll make sure you get a good deal. A good deal, like he's doing me a favor. I take the coffee, not because I want it, but because I need something to hold. Tim, do you even understand what this means? You're listed as the owner. If something happens to you, or if you sell— I'm not going to sell, he interrupts, almost laughing. Relax. You think I care about this old place? Dad just wanted to make sure it stays in the family. There it is again. In the family. A phrase that used to sound warm, but now feels like a lock clicking shut. I set the cup on the counter. You should go. He frowns, confused by my calmness. Haley, come on. Don't make this weird. You know they love you, right? Do I? The question catches him off guard. He shifts awkwardly, scratching his jaw. You're overthinking it. He handles things his way. You've always been sensitive about that stuff. Sensitive, I echo softly. That's the word they've used my whole life. Not angry, not hurt, just sensitive, as if I misinterpret reality instead of living in it. He sighs again, clearly eager to leave. Anyway, I've got work. We'll talk later, okay? I don't answer. He walks out, shutting the door behind him with the same casualness he entered with, like the whole visit was a small inconvenience to get out of the way before lunch. When the silence settles again, I sit at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched coffee. The smell of it mixes with dust and old varnish. It's strange. When you finally see people for who they are, everything they say starts to sound rehearsed. At noon, Mom calls. Haley, I just spoke to Tim. Why did you send him away like that? Because he came here to patronize me? That's not fair, she says quickly. He was trying to help. Help what? I ask. Convincing me I should be grateful for living in a house that was stolen from me? Her voice lowers. Don't use words like that. You don't understand how hard your father worked to keep this family together. I close my eyes. You mean how hard he worked to make sure everything has Tim's name on it? There's a pause long enough that I can almost hear her swallow. Then she says, softer now, You've always been the independent one, Haley. You don't need the house. That one lands deeper than I expect. For a second, I can't speak. I just stare out the window at the same porch swing where Grandma used to sit and wave when I came home from school. You don't need the house. Maybe I don't, but that's not the point. I think you should stop calling for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Haley, don't be childish. I'm not being childish. I'm being precise. When I hang up, the silence that follows isn't empty, it's thick, like the air in a courtroom before the verdict. I spend the rest of the afternoon walking through the house. Every creak of the floorboards feels like a heartbeat. I pause at Grandma's old sewing room. The light through the blinds stripes the walls, pale and gold. Her rocker still sits in the corner, dust gathering on the armrests. She used to tell me stories about fairness, how doing right and being right weren't always the same thing, but one mattered more. I think she'd understand what I'm about to do. I sit at her desk and open my laptop. The folder Brookside waits. Inside are all the documents I've gathered: the transfer, the forgery, the loophole. I start a spreadsheet: property values, ownership reversion triggers, tax exemption dates. Every fact is a step. Every number a quiet movement towards something bigger. They wanted me to be grateful. Fine, I'll thank them when they realize gratitude isn't what I owe them. I'll thank them when they realize gratitude isn't what I owe them. The words echo in my head long after I close the laptop. The house is quiet again, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the slow tick of the old wall clock in the hallway, the same one that used to chime every hour when Grandma was alive. I sit there, staring at the reflection of the ceiling light on the screen. The folder, Brookside, glows like a small secret. Not vengeance, not even anger, just clarity. For years, I used to believe my silence kept the peace, but silence only protects the people who count on you never to speak. So I won't shout. I'll document. I spend another hour combing through property databases, not for what's missing, but for what they overlooked. The clause, the conditions, the tiny lines that lawyers skim when they think no one else will understand them. When I finally look up, the clock says 1:47 a.m. I should sleep, but my mind's already moving faster than fatigue can catch it. By morning, the plan's taking shape. I'm back at my desk at TriCapital, coffee cooling beside my keyboard, eyes on the familiar glow of spreadsheets and data entries. It looks like an ordinary day, the steady hum of printers, phones, and polite voices trading numbers. But for me, every column on the screen is a weapon, every file a path toward the truth. I start quietly, a few internal searches, county verification lookups, public title chains, and then I find it, the same line buried in the deed copy from before. Beneficiary assignment contingent upon residential use. It's still active, meaning if Tim no longer lives at Brookside, the transfer fails. And buried deeper still under the notary index is a timestamp, one that requires annual occupancy verification by the end of each quarter. If it isn't filed, the system flags the ownership as pending dispute. That's not just a loophole, it's a fuse. I minimize the window, pulse steady. For years, they've used paperwork to make me small. Now it's their own language that's going to turn on them. After lunch, I drive back to Brookside. The sky's overcast, pale gray, the kind that makes everything feel a little quieter. When I step inside, the room's echo. No voices, no laughter, just the hollow sound of an empty house. The couch is gone, the coffee table too, only a few boxes stacked near the door. He's moved most of his things out. I take slow, deliberate photos. The bare floors, the missing furniture, the open space where life used to be. All of it time-stamped, all of it real. Back at home, I compile them into a file. Then I log into the state property portal and request an occupancy verification audit. It's a standard process, routine, invisible. But in this case, it's the quiet start of everything. If the audit finds the property unoccupied, the clause activates. The deed voids. Ownership reverts to the prior title holder, to me. I don't even smile. I just saved the confirmation email, closed my laptop, and let out a slow breath I didn't realize I was holding. That night the house feels different. Not lighter, exactly, but awake. When the phone rings again, I already know it's my mother. "Haley, your father's furious. He says you've been calling the county offices." "I haven't called anyone. I filed a request." "What request?" "Occupancy verification." Silence. Then, "You're playing a dangerous game, Haley." "I'm not playing. I'm documenting." Her sigh is sharp. "You're making a mistake." I stare out the window. The street outside is empty, washed in orange from the lampposts. "I know," I whisper. "So did you." When I hang up, the night feels steady again. No adrenaline, no fear. Just quiet, patient resolve. For years, they called me the quiet one, the reliable one. They were right. I am. Quiet doesn't mean harmless. Reliable doesn't mean loyal. The audit will finish in 5 days. 5 days for the truth to start breathing again.
5 days.
That's all it takes for silence to start whispering back. On the morning of the 6th, an email arrives with the subject line, "Occupancy verification, property review complete." For a moment, I just stare at it. Then I click. Property status? Vacant. Owner residency? Unverified. Transfer validity? Pending review. The clause worked. The house is now flagged as in dispute. I sit there, the faint hum of the refrigerator behind me, the quiet weight of justice finally taking shape through pixels and paragraphs. No shouting, no confrontation, just the slow rebalancing of something that had leaned too long to one side. Within hours, the notice becomes public record. It's procedural, automatic, the kind of update most people never notice. But my father would. He checks everything. That night, my phone lights up with his name. I let it ring, once, twice, then again. On the 4th call, I answer. "What did you do?" His voice isn't calm this time. It's low, dangerous. "I don't understand the question," I say, pretending not to hear the edge beneath it. "Don't play dumb. The house is under review. You triggered an audit. You think I wouldn't find out?" "I didn't trigger anything. I requested verification. It's routine." "Routine?" he snaps. "You've put a freeze on the title. We can't even access the equity line. Do you have any idea what you've done?" His anger doesn't scare me like it used to. It sounds smaller now. Less like thunder, more like echo. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you filed a false transfer," I say quietly. There's a long pause on the line, then a sharp click. He's hung up. I lean back in my chair, feeling the weight of something shift again. One push, one document, one breath closer to truth. By the next morning, the ripples have started. Mom leaves 3 voicemails, her voice trembling between concern and warning. Tim texts once. "What's going on? Dad says you froze the house." I don't reply. Instead, I head into the office. At TriCapital, the rhythm of the day continues as usual. Clients calling, printers humming, but beneath that, I'm quietly pulling thread after thread. I file a supplemental report through our property lien verification system, attaching the audit's result. Once submitted, it automatically alerts the county's property management board to review the ownership claim. In technical terms, it's just an ownership conflict review, but in practical terms, it's a lock. No one can sell, transfer, or mortgage the property until the review clears. And that review can take months. By evening, I know they've realized what I've done. I can almost picture the scene: my father pacing the kitchen, Mom crying quietly, Tim scrolling through property records on his phone, not understanding how it all slipped away so fast. That night, there's a knock at my door. When I open it, Dad's standing there. His face is tired, drawn. He looks older than I remember. "Can I come in?" I step aside. He doesn't wait for permission. He walks straight to the table, the same one where I first saw the forged deed, and sets down a manila envelope. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're destroying this family." I sit across from him. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm uncovering what's already broken." He shakes his head. "You've always had to make things difficult, always had to prove something." I meet his eyes. "You proved enough for both of us when you forged Grandma's name." Something flickers in his expression. Not guilt, not quite, but recognition, like he knows the game is shifting out of his control. "I did what I had to," he mutters. "You don't understand how complicated things were back then." "Complicated doesn't mean criminal," I say softly. He exhales sharply, eyes darting toward the folder labeled Brookside on the counter. "You think you've won something? The board will fix this. They'll restore the deed. You can't outsmart the system, Haley." I don't argue. I just watch him, letting the silence do the work. When he leaves, the house feels bigger. Not freer, not yet, but breathing differently. The next morning, I receive a new email from the county office. The property board has acknowledged my submission. Review underway. Estimated completion, 60 to 90 days. 2 to 3 months. That's how long the house will remain locked, untouchable. In that time, I can file my own counterclaim, citing fraud, false witnessing, and improper consent. I can bring in the signature analysis, the dates, the clause they thought no one would notice. It's not loud revenge. It's paper. Cold, slow, precise. But paper lasts. That night, I sit on the porch with my laptop, the autumn air biting at my fingers. Down the street, someone's burning leaves. The scent drifts through the neighborhood, heavy, familiar, like something ending. The stars above the house flicker faintly in the haze, and for a moment I imagine Grandma sitting beside me again, her hand over mine, her voice calm and certain. Do right, even if it takes time. I close the laptop. The screen goes black, reflecting only my own face. And for the first time, I can see it clearly. The quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. The kind that leaves a trail of paperwork behind it, neat and undeniable. The next evening, I find 3 cars parked along the curb in front of my house. Dad's sedan, Mom's SUV, and Tim's truck. For a moment, I just sit in my own car, engine idling, watching the silhouettes through the front window. Shapes moving, pacing, the faint glow of the kitchen light spilling out onto the porch. I already know what this is. Not a visit, a meeting. When I finally walk up the steps, the door opens before I touch the handle. Mom's there, her eyes red, her expression halfway between apology and accusation. "Haley," she says softly, "we need to talk." I glance past her. Dad's at the table, arms folded. Tim leans against the counter, staring at his phone. The same room, the same house, but the air feels thicker, as if the walls themselves are bracing for something. "Okay," I say quietly, "talk." Dad's the first to speak. "We can end this before it gets out of hand." "Before what gets out of hand?" I ask. He slides a folded letter across the table. The audit report, printed and highlighted. "You're embarrassing yourself and us. You're trying to make a legal issue out of something that was settled years ago." "It wasn't settled," I reply. "It was buried." Tim looks up from his phone, his voice tight. "You've frozen the house, Haley. We can't refinance, can't sell, can't even take out the home equity Dad needs for the business. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused?" I look at him for a long moment. "I caused?" "Don't twist this," he snaps. "You're punishing everyone for a piece of property you don't even want." "I do want it. Not the wood or the walls. The truth." Mom moves closer, her tone shifting from firm to fragile. "Sweetheart, listen to yourself. You're turning into someone we don't even recognize. Someone who knows what's hers. Someone who's spiteful," she says sharply. "Grandma wouldn't have wanted this." I meet her gaze, steady. Grandma wouldn't have wanted her signature forged either. The silence that follows stretches until it creaks. Dad's jaw tightens. He looks older again, not in a way that draws pity, but in the way time finally starts to catch up with the lies. He says, "I'm giving you one chance. Withdraw the audit, tell the county it was a mistake. We'll transfer partial ownership to you after we resolve things with the bank." "Partial?" I repeat. "You mean temporary. Controlled." "Don't get dramatic," he warns. "I'm not. I'm just not stupid anymore." Tim steps forward, voice rising. "You think this makes you powerful? You think you're teaching us a lesson?" I shake my head. "No. I think I'm reminding you of one." He scoffs. "You've always had to have the last word." Funny. I thought that was you. For a moment, no one moves. The only sound is the faint hum of the refrigerator, the same one that's been in this kitchen since I was 15. Mom looks between us, eyes wet now. "Haley, please, we're family. Don't do this." The word family lands like a bruise. "I know," I say quietly. "That's why I'm doing it." Dad exhales hard, pushing the chair back. You've made your choice. I did. 5 years ago when you forged Grandma's. He freezes mid-step, staring at me. For a second, his face flickers. Not guilt, not rage, but something colder. Calculation. Then he turns and walks out without another word. Mom hesitates by the door. You'll regret this someday. I already did. For a long time. When they're gone, the silence in the house doesn't settle right away. It hangs there, stretched thin, waiting to see what comes next. I stand at the window, watching their cars disappear one by one. The rain starts again, light at first, then steadier, tracing thin lines down the glass. The kitchen smells faintly of coffee and damp paper. Their envelope is still on the table, half open, pages shifting slightly in the draft from the vent. I sit down and look through them one at a time. Bank slips, transfers, unsigned forms, the kind of mess that happens when people act before thinking. Some dates overlap, some signatures don't match, little fractures in the story they tried to tell. Outside, headlights blur through the rain. The street grows quiet. I gather the pages, slide them back into the folder, and place them on the counter beside the old wall clock. It ticks steadily, the same rhythm it's had since Grandma's time. For a while, I just listen to it, then I turn off the light and head upstairs, leaving the kitchen and the soft glow from the porch outside. The exhibit opened on a Thursday evening. Winter light lingered in the glass atrium of the museum, refracting through the suspended chandeliers until everything shimmered, deliberate, deceptive, beautiful. Exactly how they liked to appear. Guests murmured in low voices, wine glasses chiming softly against the catered hum. At the center of the room stood the velvet box, under a single spotlight. The label beneath it read, Reproduction, gold-plated alloy, simulated stones. Appraised value, $482. No emotion, no accusation, just truth, documented and lit. I had chosen the scent of cedar and bergamot for the space, the same combination Grandma once used in her dresser drawers. It was faint, but I knew they'd recognize it the moment they stepped in. When Claire and Evan arrived, the sound of their laughter floated in before I saw them. She wore a cream coat, elegant and pressed, the kind that always seemed to suggest innocence. Evan adjusted his tie as they approached the central display, the one they'd once called heirlooms. Their conversation trailed off mid-sentence. Claire's hand froze halfway to her clutch. Evan's eyes darted to the placard, then to me, standing a few steps away. "Nora," she managed, her voice low, "what is this?" I met her gaze. An educational exhibition. The words came out steady, almost kind. It explores the difference between perceived and authentic value. A few museum patrons, unaware of the subtext, gathered closer. Someone read the description aloud. Another asked if it was inspired by a family story. Claire's face stiffened. Her fingers twitched toward the display, but she stopped. She couldn't touch it now. Not under the glass, not under the lights. The same appraisal certificate that had exonerated me was framed beside the display, signed and dated by the official assessor. Every detail, the sale record, the insurance entry, the duplicate order receipt, all printed cleanly and mounted behind her reflection. The truth didn't need defending. It simply existed. Evan cleared his throat. "You didn't have to do this." I didn't, but transparency is a professional obligation. A journalist from the local art review, standing nearby, jotted a note on his pad. Heads turned, the room still. The air had that thin, brittle quiet that comes right before glass breaks, except it didn't. No one shouted, no one stormed out. I could have said more about the policy, the deceit, the years of premeditated blame. I didn't. Instead, I let the silence fill the space they'd tried to shrink me into. Dr. Voss stood near the entrance, watching. When I walked over, She handed me a glass of water, her voice calm. "Authenticity rarely needs defense," she murmured. "It only needs light." I smiled faintly. Grandma would have liked that. She'd be proud, not of the exposure, of the restraint. By evening, the house is officially on the market. The sign goes up while I'm still inside, the sound of the metal stake cutting into soil, sharp and brief. I stay by the front window for a while after the agent leaves. The sun is low, catching on the glass, turning everything gold for a moment before it fades. Outside, the yard looks smaller than I remember. The paint on the fence is peeling, the garden half wild. I open a window. The air smells like rain and lilac. Somewhere down the street, someone's mowing a lawn, the steady hum fading in and out with the wind. The house is quiet again. Not empty, just still. I close the window and rest my hand on the sill. The wood is cool, smooth from years of touch. Then I turn off the lights and step outside, locking the door behind me. The papers come through a week later. A short email from the escrow office. Closing confirmed. Transfer complete. It doesn't feel dramatic. No final meeting, no signatures exchanged across a polished desk, just a file attached to an email and a silence that follows after you open it. I'm sitting in the small apartment I rented downtown, one that still smells faintly of fresh paint and new carpet. The window overlooks a busy street, a coffee shop on one corner, a bookstore on the other. Cars move below like a quiet current. I click the attachment. The sale is finalized, the payment processed, the property listed as sold to a private buyer. Brookside Lane now belongs to someone else. I don't know their name, and I don't need to. For a long moment, I just sit there, listening to the city noise outside, traffic, a dog barking somewhere, a faint song from a car radio passing by. It's different from the silence of that house, but it feels alive. Later, I drive back once, not to go inside, just to see it. The for sale sign's gone, the lawn's been trimmed, the front steps scrubbed clean. Through the window, I can see moving boxes stacked near the door. A woman stands inside, holding a small child. They're laughing at something I can't hear. I stay in the car, engine off. The air's warm, carrying the smell of cut grass and asphalt. For a second, I think I see movement upstairs, the soft sway of the lace curtain in Grandma's old room. Then it's still again. I start the car and pull away slowly, the sound of gravel under the tires fading behind me. At the end of the street, I stop once more, just long enough to look in the rearview mirror. The house stands quiet under the late afternoon light. Not mine, not theirs, just a house again. The wind shifts, carrying the faint smell of lilac through the open window. Then the road curves, and it disappears from view.